Central Virginia, where beauty, passion, and determination collide and form vibrant cities and communities. Nestled in the shadow of the Blue Ridge Mountains lies the city of Lynchburg, a booming urban center of visionaries and artisans, businessmen and creatives. It is here where our story begins. Today I'm joined by Josh Tam and Jake Dawson. They are the founders of Legacy Wealth Management Group. Hi guys.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm excited to talk to you today about this wonderful journey you've been on. You have such a beautiful place here.
It is actually such a wonderful opportunity to be able to walk in these doors every single day. The space is beautiful. It's definitely a privilege.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We are so blessed to have this facility, and we're really excited to tell the story today about Legacy.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. So how did you two meet, and what led you to start your own firm?
Yeah, great question. So we got to go back to 2009 during the Great Recession, the financial crisis. I had just opened, was the manager of a Merrill Lynch office here in Lynchburg. And many of you may remember, it wasn't a great time in the markets at that time. And we were in the middle of a transition, and I get a phone call from an old buddy of mine that happened to be Jake's brother-in-law. And Larry says, you got to meet this guy. He's dynamic, he's a hard worker, he's all these sorts of things.
Yeah,
and I said, I don't have time for this. I said, no way. We literally had a dumpster outside the building because they were renovating, and every day clients are driving by thinking, are you still open, Josh? Are you guys still in business? Because we had just been bought by Bank of America, lots of uncertainty. And so unbeknownst to me, my partner who doesn't know the word no had actually called Charlottesville, Merrill Lynch and said, hey, buddy, can I come up there and work for you? And got hired in Charlottesville. And about 4 or 5 months later, I think ended up back in Lynchburg. And ended up being a really great part of the branch there. So as far as the partnership goes, I might let Jake speak a little bit to the actual partnership, but that's how I first met Jake and how we actually met.
Yeah, so fast forward 4 years, Josh had his own practice, I had my own practice. We had some different attempts at partnerships, lessons learned during those moments. But it was 2013, and we were at a lunch at the
Yellow Submarine.
And this was a big deal because, Janet, I wanted 2 subs, okay? I wanted the 7 and the 11.
Okay.
There's me and Josh. I'm like, 2 people, 2 subs.
Married men.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, bud, so how do you feel about, buddy, pal, how do you feel about splitting this sub? And he said yes. And from that point on,
beginning of something beautiful.
it actually did start a conversation like, why have we not thought about partnering in the first place? You have strengths and I have strengths, and they're complementing. And we saw the world the same, but how we got there was different, and that was really, really important. And there was a couple comments that he had made that I'm one of those guys that once I see it, then I can do it. And we're driving back, and we're right there at neighbor's place. We're at the stoplight, and I said, Josh, do you mean this, and this? And he said, yeah, that's what I mean. And right then I'm like, I see that, I can do that. And just, I mean.
Yeah, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a spreadsheet on my desk, the door's shut. John, let me show you this thing. I'm like, all right, Jake, let's just look at it. But something I think we both realized was we understood each other's strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. At the time, I had a much bigger business, but Jake had a much more efficient business. And so his ideas were, how do we get from here to where we both are better off and we help our clients? I'm excited about the fact that Jake's joined the team, that we formed this team. As I mentioned, as branch manager, sometimes it's very difficult for me to manage my practice as effectively as I want to. Jake is fantastic at doing those things that need to be done. To come into me and say, Josh, here are these trades that need to be placed. Here's a conversation we had. We need to make sure we're staying on top of this. Here's an issue out here with this client. We need to address it. Jake's phenomenal at that, and so I'm excited to have him as kind of our managing partner.
Josh gives the direction. I'm setting up the infrastructure to make sure that's actually being completed, and I'm setting up the the benchmarks that we can say to say, okay, we're going to hit it by this stage, and if we don't hit it by this stage, what do we need to adjust to make sure we hit it by the next stage?
It was a great partnership that now is over 10 years old, and it's been a lot of fun. So it's been a long road to get here, but we're really glad we're here.
So Josh, tell me, have you always been in the world of finance?
Nope, I've been doing it for about 22 years, but before that, I was in the restaurant business for 20 years.
Wow, okay, that's a big difference.
Oh, big
here.
difference. So when I was 12, my brother called me, and he said, "Hey Josh, any chance you might want to come bust some suds at the restaurant?" He was the executive chef of a local restaurant, and he said, "I'll give you $20 and a meal." And I'm a pastor's kid, missionary's kid, and we didn't have a lot of extra shrimp around the house, so the chance to get a meal, I jumped at it. And so he came and picked me up in his Mach 2 Mustang, that was fun too, the ride over to the restaurant. He was 17, I was 12. We get there and I wash dishes all night, bust suds and get done. He says, "Okay, pick your meal." And so I looked at the menu and knew exactly what I'm getting. 1982 potato skins and shrimp scampi. That's my meal. And so I sat at the bar in heaven, like almost tearing up, eating this delicious food. And my brother comes over to me, puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "Hey, you want to do it again?" I was like, "Yeah." And so I was at 7th grade. I was doing 4 or 5 days a week in the restaurant and loving every minute of it. About 20 years later, I'm running a local country club here in town. It was a Monday night, and I said to the sous chef, "Hey, if you cover the back of the house, I'll just cover the front of the house. Let everybody else be off on Monday." And it was a 30-person event or so, and it's for a mutual fund company called American Funds, still around today. And we get all done, and this gentleman's named Mike comes up to me afterwards and says, "Hey, give me his card. You ever think about getting in finance?" And I laughed. I was like, "Mike, I'm a restaurant guy. You see me." He goes, "Look, you give great customer service. The finance we can teach. Sometimes we can't teach the people stuff." So I came home that night, and as I took my jacket off, his card fell out. And Dawn, my wife, said, "Hey, what's this?" I said, "This knucklehead thinks I can be a financial advisor."
And he said, "What do you think? It's stupid, right?" And I'm like, "No, you need to do that." Which is very unlike me to go ahead and say something like that right off the bat without really knowing much information. But for whatever reason, I just had one of those moments of clarity, and it was very clear and very direct that that's what should happen.
Of course, remember, the restaurant business, you're not home nights and weekends and all the holidays. You're working all these weird hours. The kids were little at the time, so I called the guy. And the number he gave me was very low to say, "You can be a financial advisor, but your salary is going to be a fraction of what I was making." So I came home and said, "I don't know how we can do this." And she says, "I don't care, you need to do it." And so a lot of spouses may not have support, but I had support big time from day one, and I needed it. But fast forward 22 years later, and I just couldn't be happier with where we are here at Legacy and being in the world of finance. So.
Was that normal for you to switch with the sous chef and say, "I'm going to take care of front of house and you take care of back of house," or was back of house always your thing?
No, I ran both.
Because it's just curious how that one Friday night interaction, where if you were staying in the back of the house,
Right.
you would have never had the interaction with some random American Funds guy to have. It's just funny
A
how.
little serendipity. Well, how about you, Jake? Have you always been a finance guy?
Not exactly. You know, it takes a lot of different interactions, a lot of different people along the way to support you. And Lynchburg Nissan was foundational to helping me understand.
At a very early age.
How to communicate with people. This is the thing about car sales. The person drives on the lot, and you are the used car salesman. You are the beneath the shoe individual.
You already have things you've got to overcome.
Oh yeah, and you've got to bring them down this road to sale, so that they trust you and that they ultimately want to work with you again and again. In fact, I learned some of that as I was a door-to-door vacuum salesman before even Nissan. I wasn't there very long. I remember feeling pride moving from the door-to-door vacuum salesman to the car salesman. Okay, but by 23, I had been promoted to being a used car manager, finance manager, and once I got into finance, I realized I have a knack for this. I enjoyed speaking to the banks. I enjoyed doing analysis on credit reports, building out financial scenarios to make the car work for the individual. Some of that strategy starts, and from that point we go to Wachovia, and from Wachovia I was a financial specialist for a couple of years, got my license while I was in that tenure, worked under some great financial advisors who taught me a lot, but eventually, because of the Great Recession that you were just talking about, Wachovia was doing some major cutting before they ultimately went under and got bought out by Wells Fargo.
Wachovia was at a sizzling $1 a share, and they thought it was a good time to buy. They came to me and said, Jake, you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much. We're going to change how you're doing what you're doing. We want you to, instead of looking at the client's total picture and making whatever investment makes the most sense for them, we want you to take this product, whatever that product was of the month, and y'all know what I'm talking about, and we want you to make it fit that square peg. We don't care how you structure it to the client, sell this product and make it fit this peg. And that wasn't me. I've got to lay my head on my pillow, I've got to fall asleep, and I need to make sure I can do that with good conscience. And so in October, it's 6 years ago this year, I come home and I've got my box, and Laura's like, we need to talk? I'm like, I got everything covered, don't worry about it. I mean, I set it on the counter, and so I went to go look for another firm.
And so I contacted Larry. Larry contacted Josh.
I said no.
Josh said no, and so I found another solution until he decided to say yes. A lot of people coming along.
So you both had very different training grounds, but you both were learning what your strengths were, and then you were able to come together and create this great partnership that way.
I think when we both could see what the future could hold, and then we both had unique set of skills that when coming together, it's really rare that legacy could be something special. And we didn't know it was going to be called legacy because we were only partners for a couple of years at Merrill before we decided to venture out. But at the end of the day, once we could see it, we knew it was going to be different and special, and the sky's been the limit. We've been very blessed ever since we could kind of have that perspective.
When we decided to go all in here, the world kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And everybody's focus was just how can we get this place up and running in a place where people will actually want to come and be. And so if you know Jake Dawson, he doesn't really do anything halfway. And he was here many days. He was gone before the kids woke up, and by the time they were in the bed at night, he was coming into work. And so there were many days where the kids didn't get to see Dad, but they knew that Dad was working so hard to make sure that the business would run successfully, and surrounding himself with people here, staff, with people here who were working hard and pushing forward for the same goal.
Scene 4B, take 1, marker.
The crazy thing, Janet, at first, people couldn't even wrap their mind around this.
Do y'all want to see this debate?
May 15th, 16th, somewhere in that ballpark, Josh comes to my office. It's on a Tuesday. He goes, hey, I was at this choir recital. I wasn't listening to the kids. All of a sudden, God gave me this divine intervention to look at churches to possibly buy as their venue. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. He goes, look at this one. And he hands this one right in front. And I'm like, he goes, can we go look at it? Yeah, I mean, it's like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, okay, let's go look at it, right? So we come in here, and Tuesday we look at the building. Sunday we were toasting glasses, wine glasses, because we had bought the building. That's how fast this went. We had a complete peace from God that this was the right move to make, and thank you for that peace that he gives to us.
When I got over the initial shock of, this is a humongous building, what are we going to do with this, when I got over the initial shock, then I could start to just grasp the vision of how amazing it was actually going to be, and how much of a benefit it was going to be for our clients to actually come in this building and make sure that not only was everyone taken care of, but above and beyond. And that has been goal and executed from day one.
I remember speaking to a fellow member of an organization that I was a part of, and he's a successful insurance gentleman in his 10 by 10 office building, you know, like the entirety of this thing.
A cubicle, it's a building.
Yeah, the whole kit and caboodle.
It's a he shed.
And he couldn't quite get it. He's like, how are you even going to be profitable in a 14,000
14,400
square foot building, where half of it is an auditorium space? And Josh, you say the heart, what is that?
The heart can't taste what the eyes haven't seen.
Yeah. And whether it's that gentleman who has since 8 years later come back and said, oh,
Now
I get it, right? Or clients that we've had, I cannot remember the last proactive phone call I've ever made to obtain a client. They come into these events, they walk into this building, they feel the authenticity of the individuals that they're working with, and they realize that this is just a better way to do your financial advising.
Just this is so cool.
That's cool, isn't it?
I had a moment.
Yeah, they say the first guy over the walls always get the bloodiest, right? And we did. We got ridiculed in the financial services business for saying, what are you doing? Seminars don't work. Nobody gives referrals anymore. You got to buy lead lists and cold calls. And we just really decided if we treated our clients like prospects, if we gave them educational events and showed them appreciation and poured back into them, we didn't have account minimums, right? For the first time, we didn't have to tell a referral, we can't work with you because our firm says you're not rich enough. And all these things come together, and it's feeding off itself now in a really positive way where people feel appreciated and respected regardless of where they are in their financial journey. So legacy's different.
And it sounds very simple and it sounds kind of cliche, but to treat people the way you want to be treated is such a simple concept.
But
it
so
doesn't seem
poorly,
like nobody's doing
right? So
anymore.
poorly executed,
Yep.
right? Everyone's looking at just how efficient they can possibly be, what call center they can put you into.
How I can AI the next thing.
Oh,
Right.
And that's strong.
Yep.
And that's strong. And we've had to think about that as well, and what kind of impact we're going to want that to have or not have.
Right.
Within the organization. But there is a human touch that that our culture right now is missing out on.
Yep.
That I think is resonating with at least the people of this community.
Yeah. You know, a simple thing. We don't ever want someone to get voicemail, right? Unless they ask for voicemail. We want somebody calls the firm to have a real life human being pick up the phone and show them some kindness and help them where we can. And as long as we can, for as long as we possibly can, we want that to stay in place. We want people to be able to have a human response because a lot of times they need that human touch. We're not afraid to hire to make sure that when you call, you're not getting anything automated. You're speaking to a real person if we can help it. So we just want to say that, yes, we're growing, but that's not to detriment. That is something that we are going to hire to make sure your level of service never drops.
So I've heard the term legacy family floating around.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
So it has a couple of meanings. I'll talk about the first meaning, which was really our group of employees and their families. The legacy family, we say they have to have a special DNA to work here because it's not a 9 to 5. Many of you know we do Christmas lights, and that's multiple days and nights of long times. We do seminars where we're asking our employees to get here at 8 o'clock, and sometimes they're not leaving until 9 or 10. And so it requires a special kind of lifestyle. And so for us, we're looking for that DNA of people that really want to help people. And because of that, we do have a few policies that we think are pretty unique. We announced this year unlimited time off. So literally, we say to our employees, as long as your work's done and things are covered, if you need to take a day or you need to take a weekend or you need some extra time, we think we've hired the right people, and therefore, we're not counting it. It's funny because many of you know Renee, and early on, I said to her, Renee, it's Friday afternoon, let's go ahead and go. And she goes, no, I have a thing next week I need to go to. And I'm like, nobody's keeping track. Nobody's keeping track anymore, right? So,
Yeah, but that says something about her character. It's that DNA.
Right. That's right.
You're talking about.
The DNA. So for us, we have a fantastic crew. We were talking about this the other day. We've never terminated anybody in 8 years, which is amazing. We had a couple team people leave for different reasons, but it's amazing. The legacy family that we have is really special.
Well, and then you've got just this year as well, we built out our Mind, Body, Soul initiative, where it's mandatory encouragement. Everybody needs to spend at least 30 minutes in the library, but we do not care what you're reading on.
Yep.
And essentially we hope that they do it every single day. And then we've got a gym that we've bought so that they can take care of their body, and we've got a fun break room with maybe a couple arcade games to take care of their soul for when they're just a little too stressed out over those days' events. But I think it's really helped our staff understand that we really do care about all the different aspects of your life.
And ultimately, that's for our clients, right? So when our employees are happy and healthy and answering the phone, it's a much better experience for our clients too. And so it's good for everybody. So we see it as an investment back into the firm.
You really do have an amazing group of employees, and some of them have really overcome some huge obstacles, and they still maintain such an amazing outlook on life.
That's right. We're so blessed to have the team that we have. So many of them have, again, overcome so many things in their life, but at the end of the day, the one employee that's not with us any longer is Cindy Hodnett, and it's hard to think of the formation of Legacy without Cindy.
Sure.
Jake can probably speak even more than I can about the long hours Cindy gave to us for years and years. She was the glue that held us together, and we've memorialized her, and we do an Employee of the Year in her honor, and things won't quite be the same ever again. But Cindy wants us to move forward. She'd be proud of where Legacy is.
Absolutely.
And it's exciting to see the evolution, but we miss her. And she was a good egg.
Yeah, she was. And I think the one thing that's surprising is they don't really tell you when you get into this business just how involved, how close, how much of an integral part you are in these family lives.
Yeah.
Whether it's clients calling you for the positive life events or the negative life events, a lot of times you're one of the top 2 to 3 phone calls that are being made, and there's such a vested interest that we personally have into these lives that we work with.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody call and say, "Hey, Josh, I just want to let you know I start cancer treatments shortly, and I haven't told my kids yet. You're the first call that I made." We've had phone calls where we were talking about this earlier. A client called and said, "Josh, I only have a few weeks to live. Can I have my funeral at Legacy Wealth Management?" And I said, "Of course." And she said, "And by the way, can you officiate it?"
Yeah.
And so from weddings to funerals to all sorts of events, you just get so involved and so in these relationships. So when they hurt, we hurt. And it's the downside of having these great personal relationships is you're going through it with them, the good and the bad.
Yeah, it's humbling and honoring also at the exact same time.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is that with the success that we've been able to have with this company is that when a family member is feeling a pinch somewhere, a pain point, that we have the ability through our infrastructure to create a solution there. A good example of that was, I believe it was about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. I had a client in New York, not New York, but like
where I grew up.
Back Sticks.
Exactly.
Upper New York, right? And all she had was a Social Security income. And the tax gentleman was charging her $450 to get this tax done. And I was like, that is crazy. Right. And so I came to Josh and I said, "Hey, Brandon's got an act for this. What do you think about creating another arm of Legacy that can do tax prep for our clients, but do it at
simplify their lives.
Yeah, simplify their lives and make it Brandon can walk down the hall, have a conversation with us on behalf of the client, and the client loves that type of simplicity, and also at a far more reasonable rate from a billing point of view. And so I think that's something I would take a lot of pride in, is that through this success, it's allowing us to expand our vision into areas that we may not have thought of in in 2016.
In addition to managing his own clients as a financial advisor, Brandon Bosch also started taking care of tax preparation for clients. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Happy to be here.
Of course. Well, tell me a little bit about your start at Legacy.
Jake said something to the fact that they might entertain bringing me on to their team. I assumed it would be at Merrill Lynch, but I sat down with a lunch with Josh and Jake, and after lunch, they both looked at each other. They turned their heads, and they had the exact same idea, and we got in the car, we drove here to Legacy. I can remember the exact day they drove me here, and they laid out their vision for Legacy with this new building that they had just purchased. And before they could even finish the tour, taking me through, I said, I'm in.
Wow. So you were on board immediately.
Josh said, do you need to talk to Caitlin about this? I was like, no, she's good.
Wow.
She's fine.
Not too shabby
Right.
for a guy who's so analytical.
Right.
Yeah.
And they continually point to that specific spot where I was like, yes, I'm in, I'm committed.
Yeah, it's really interesting because even though he had said yes immediately to Jake and Josh, he didn't tell me for about 1 to 2 weeks. I had no clue that this was going on. And so it was a huge surprise. So when he had told me about it finally, he kind of left me on this cliffhanger of Jake and Josh are leaving, they're going somewhere else, and kind of making me think, what are we gonna do? And then he tells me, but they asked me to go with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them yes. But I was definitely left out of the loop for a little while.
Join the club.
Yeah.
So where did the idea for an in-house tax service come from?
I think it came from 2 different ideas. One Jake alluded to earlier when he visited his client in New York, and she paid $450 for a tax preparation that was very simple.
Like a one-page.
Exactly, right. And so understanding how could we make that more reasonable from a cost perspective for our clients. And then the other side of it, the other aspect was every February and March, our clients are asking us, hey, can you get my 1099s and send them to this accounting firm or that accounting firm, whether it's in town or out of town. We were always sending out 1099s to some different accounting firm.
Right.
And that was a consistent theme every year, right? That's
Right.
part of what we do.
Yeah.
And so bringing those 2 ideas together, let's just bring tax preparation in-house,
Right.
do it at a fair, reasonable price, right? And it be a value add to our clients. So Josh, Jake, and myself, we plotted out a plan to get to that point where we could start doing tax preparation.
So you made things simpler for your client, but it sounds like an awful lot of hard work.
It is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours, especially in February and March and April.
Right.
But I am not unfamiliar with a lot of hours. Growing up on a farm, you put in a lot of hours, right? There's that work hard, play hard, right?
Right.
It's a lot of hard work to get to the end. And so seeing that through and knowing how much work you need to put into it, whether it's 60, 70, 80 hours a week during that period of time, I'm not unfamiliar with that, right? I'm not unfamiliar with that work ethic. My father instilled in me that type of work ethic and being able to do that and put that in. And ultimately, I think we demand a lot of our staff here at Legacy.
Right.
Josh and Jake have alluded to that, and they see that, right? They see that, they caught onto the vision of that, and they're able to as well pour into our clients and make things more simple and less complicated for our clients.
So I walked past this great little suite on the way in. Tell me what Old Dominion Insurance is.
Well, it's a great question. When I left our former firm, I had a couple of months on my hand where I had to sit on the sidelines. And so as a response to really trying to say, how can I stay involved with what's going on, we formed Old Dominion. It was in August of 2016. And with that, we started with doing Medicare, life insurance. It grew to home and auto, commercial insurance. And what we found is that our clients love when we simplify their lives. When they have their taxes done here, their investments, their home and auto, their Medicare, they're not calling 10 different agents and wondering who has my best interest at heart. We're able to sit down and really comprehensively help these clients and simplify their financial lives. And so Old Dominion was yet again came from our clients' request of, hey, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's allowed us to really help our clients make their lives simpler and more efficient, and they love it.
So are there any other ways that you guys are thinking about growing and expanding in the future?
I'll let you take that.
So we've got a lot of ideas, a lot of structure that is being built for the legacy vision. And although I don't know exactly what everything will look like 8 years and 10 years from now, one thing I do know is that Josh says this a lot, that when an individual runs into a life event where a lot of money is all of a sudden thrust onto them, whatever their personality was is just that now being expanded. If they were a generous person before, they're a rich, generous person. If they were a selfish person before, they're a rich, selfish person. And that's similar to us. In 2016, when we are dealing with a business that does not want to get built, because no business wants to get built, we still executed our vision at that time. And over the last 8 years, we've had tremendous growth. And the only thing that it has allowed us to do is to continue to execute our vision at that level. And so I don't know the next 10 years exactly. What I do know is that me and Josh will build a conglomerate of companies that will serve our families in a better way. And we will figure out exactly where those pain points are at in the financial services world, and we will solve those problems between the two of us. We have a skill set, and hopefully that doesn't come across as conceited, but we've got a skill set that can identify the problem and develop a solution to make it a simpler thing for our clients.
I think there's security and confidence. I think that's a confidence thing.
Well, I'll take that then.
Yeah, I also see it as generational, with Logan coming on and learning the business, and being just starting to be an advisor, and Jeffrey, my son-in-law, also learning the business and working one-on-one with clients. I think it's amazing to have our families be so saturated and involved in our day-to-day here at Legacy.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great knowing that not only are we creating or helping to our clients create generational wealth, but it's also generational growth from our families as well.
Yes.
And who knows? Maybe even the littlest Bosches will be joining us soon.
Start pulling weeds out front.
That's right.
You know?
That's
Getting their skin in the game.
That's right. Never too early to start.
Yeah. But I think the main heart will still stay true with clients being the focus, and having that main dream, even though it will grow.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've learned you can't go wrong meeting somebody where they are and helping them with whatever tools they need at that point. Whether they just sold their business for $10 million and figure we don't know what to do, or a young family saying, we know we need to budget and we know we need to do this, we just don't know how. And for us, helping all those people is so satisfying. And in the long run, we think it's the right thing to do, but it's a good business move as well because you're helping everybody where they are. And we think people don't forget that. So we think it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you I've never experienced a business quite like yours before.
Well, Janet, we love what we do. We think we have the best clients in the world. We're looking forward to what the future has, and we're excited. And every day that we come in, it's really a different day, but just new opportunities to help people. And so we thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to do this with us and to allow us to tell our story to the families that we work with. And I'm really excited about looking back on this
When
10
we're old
years
men.
from now, right? And
We're old
seeing,
men,
well, you'll be old. And I'll just be me.
Oldish.
Yeah, oldish. That's right. And seeing what this is all shaped up to be.
Thanks a lot. and learning a lot. Did, yeah, learned a lot. A story I won't tell, but it's really funny. Maybe I'll tell it and you can cut it. Was everybody kept saying to me when I'd made a mistake, you made a Kenny. Oh, you made a Kenny, right? And so I worked evenings for a month or two.
This is Kenny.
Until my brother says to me, hey, anybody can come in on a Saturday morning. We had Mother's Day, whatever it was. Yeah, sure. So I'm in there, and this guy comes in I don't know, and we're playing around, and he drops a knife and almost sticks it in his foot. And I'm like, oh, you made a Kenny. He goes, how'd you know my name was Kenny?
Oh, no.
It's serious. I'm like, I don't know. He goes, are they talking about me? Are they talking about me? And I was like, no, Kenny, no.
And that was your first lesson in inner office.
Yes. At 12 years old, I learned, don't talk about Kenny. Right? Like, easy. So anyways, I digress.
Do not talk about Kenny.
Right.